Guys, to another episode of Weavy Reptiles. Today's video is going to be a short one, just a quick description on how to identify your bearded dragon's morph. I had a few friends request this, and inside this one tank I have a few different kinds of morphs that I can actually explain. We're going to start off by explaining how there's a difference between a super smooth leatherback, Italian leatherback, and you got American style smooth leatherback. The super smooth Italian leatherbacks are very clean. They almost look like they're microscale. Very, very, very clean. Small reduction of scale. You'll see they're very, very small. Almost not even there. Side spikes completely gone. Only like maybe one or two right there. And with your American style leatherbacks, they have more pronounced spikes on the sides. And they have more bumpier backs on the center, so you can actually feel there's more texture. That's an American leatherback and a normal leatherback. I'm sorry, American leatherback and Italian leatherback. And then you have normal scale, which is your typical scaling, which gets all their spikes and stuff. But Marigold here is actually a reduced scale, because beardies usually have a lot more intense scale than this. But since we've bred out the morph so much to leatherbacks that it's about almost, I can say, at least 70% of the dragons nowadays are all either going to have some kind of reduction of scales. So a real true normal scaled beardies, they're still around. There's plenty of people still dealing with them because there's a lot of people that don't like to breed into morphs and stuff, so they like to keep the traditional beautiful bearded dragon the same, so they don't add it, and it always keeps them to have those intense strong spiking. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to explain to you guys is translucent and normal. Translucent is an easy way to describe, an easy way to identify, because they have solid black eyes, like Diva and Bamba like Dove and Bamba have solid black eyes. They'll have, right now she's a little older, so you won't be able to see it as well, but I'll show you right now with one of the babies. Now, when you have a translucent young one, you can see through their belly. See how the belly has like a kind of a bluish tone to it? Once it focuses, you'll probably be able to see it better. But you kind of see a blue tone. It's because you can actually see through his belly into his guts. This is my buddy Torch as well. He's a translucent normal scale. Those are two characteristics you want to look for a translucent, if they have the solid black eyes. And sometimes what they'll have is a partial trans, where the dragon will have the see-through scalation. Like, see, translucents also have where their spikes will also have a little bit of a translucent to them right at the end, the tips. So if your dragon doesn't have the solid black eyes, but does have the clear belly, or anything of that nature, something that shows that it has one trait but not all traits, we call those partial trans and partial morphintations. Those are really not the best dragons to breed because of the partial trans. The trans genetics itself is not a very strong genetics. It's still very fresh, so we need to produce as many possible hets as possible, so that way more people can produce. Your best quality translucents typically come from pairing two hets, a het trans to a het trans. So you want to get a good quality trans, your best bet would be to try to produce two het transes together. Visual transes to a het trans also produce good quality, but the best quality that I've seen and I've experienced is a het trans. We're going to move on to hypos. Bamba here is a het hypo, so she has the little dark nails. But Marigold over here is a pure hypo, so she'll have a visible clear nails. You see the difference between the two? We'll put her a little closer so you can see the two nails side by side. You can see how one has the see-through nails and one has the darker nails. Hypos on the right and het hypos on the left. Now they will have also no hypo whatsoever genetics wise in them and still have the solid black nails, but I'm calling her het hypo because I know for a fact she's a het hypo. Both parents were hypo, so there will be 100% chance that their babies will have hypo if she produces any this summer. Now that's the hypogenetics, translucent genetics, leatherback genetics, normal scale, reduced scale. One more genetics that I have that I need to show. There are a few more that I don't personally have on my own, but this is a Dunner. Now, Dunner trait is also a new morphification that has just been coming out in the market for the last year and a half or so. The way to identify these guys is, if you look at their beard goes actually in a forward direction. The scalation, see how they go right at you? They don't go from nose back. They don't formulate this way. They actually come forward. So if you were to pet his beard this way, it would feel fine, but when you do it this way, there's resistance. Another thing that you have to look for in a Dunner is they have very large hands and feet. So they're larger than normal. Also, a trait that you'll find in a Dunner is that their tail base actually starts off much longer before it actually starts to thin out. See how the base of his tail has a lot more girth all the way down than a typical bearded dragon? That's a typical thing you could see for a Dunner, I'm sorry. Also, if you notice their scales on their feet, on their legs, arms, body, everything, it actually goes up. It doesn't go down uniformed, like I'll show you right now. As you can see with Marigold, all her spikes go down. They go in a form down. They all aim downwards, towards her knees or towards the ground. But with a Dunner, they actually just go up. They kind of look like freckles or porcupines, kind of. They feel like Velcro when you pet them because all their spikes are in the air, straight up. They don't go downwards, so there's no like if you pet them this way it's smooth, or you pet them this way it's smooth. They just go up. So every direction you touch them is very spiky. Another thing about the Dunner trait is that their scalation on their stomach has no uniform to it. So it'll look all blotchy and stuff. He's not liking this, so I'm going to do this for a quick second. But you can see kind of like there's blotches. Like right in the middle there's a blotch of scalation, and there's no uniform direction for their scalation. Another thing that is a very common Dunner trait, I don't know if my camera's going to be able to focus this on it, but the Dunners have a very unique patternation on their eyes, where they only have like these two identified lines on opposite sides and clean on the up and down. It's very hard to actually catch on the camera, but it's something that is very common with them. You can also see how their spiking is very intense on their sides. It goes all the way underneath. Dunners are very, very patternful animals. You'll see their patternation on their tail also does not go into a line pattern where it will be horizontal lines. They actually go vertical, or mostly you'll see spots. Spots is a Dunner trait. So when you see a spotted dragon, typically that's a Dunner. What I mean by spots is like their legs don't have the lines like I explained. They have spikes, or they have spots. So, like, it's easier to show on a baby because the older they are, the more their lines go. But you can see how she has lines. Dunners, unfortunately, his patternation is kind of faded away because that happens mostly with most dragons. As they get older, their patternation kind of like blends into just one solid color. But his never got lines, he got vertical lines. His patternation was lines this direction and this direction, then he had spots down the middle, and then he had a little cross. He just has some very beautiful color and very beautiful markings. See how he has that very unique coloring. This is not common in a lot of morphs, but he had it, and I was very lucky to get it because he's been producing some very beautiful stuff. Let me see what else I can explain. There are other types of dragons that are new morphs that I don't have currently with me, so I can't explain them by visually showing to you, but I can explain them as far as telling you what to look for. You have wit splits. Those are also a common new morph that just came out. Not many people are dealing with them because they're still hoping that they can get the genetics a little stronger because they're just not really producing great healthy animals. To identify a wit split, typically patternless, solid one color. There's no striping down the eyes, there's no patterns on the back, there's literally no patterns whatsoever. So something like Bambi, which is gorgeous, full of color and patterns, you can definitely know she's not a wit split. A wit split would have just one solid color. No color, no patterning, no nothing, just one clean solid color. And then all this beautiful coloration on her side wouldn't be there. She would just be one solid plain color. I mean, I say plain, but it is very unique, it's very beautiful, but to me, it's not my favorite. Alright guys, if you have any questions, write them on the comments. If you have any suggestions on certain videos you'd like to see, just go ahead and write them down. Thank you again. Enjoy.